I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like. What's up, world? Welcome to another edition of I Mix What I Like Live here at Black Power Media. Again, I'm Jared Ball. Happy to be your host. Good morning. Shout out to all of you joining us as we hold it down until the Remix Morning Show returns on Tuesday of next week, which is, of course, our Monday. But thank you all for joining me here to start off our Dope Fridays here at Black Power Media. And again, we have a really good show lined up for you today. So please do. I know it's not quite the boom bap breakfast that we offer with the remix, but do go ahead and invite a friend, family, foe, comrade, comprador, colleague, classmate to join you this morning. Hit like, share, subscribe. Brother Kaba is going to join me in a little bit to run through some stories with me and us. And of course, later today, Lukeman Nation, Burn It Down with Kim Brown, Renegade Culture, and the last Dope Intellectual, the penultimate of season 1, episode 19, drops tonight at 7 o'clock Eastern. So you don't want to miss any of that. So as I said, please do go ahead and like, share, subscribe. Consider joining the channel if you can. We are, again, continuing to expand. We have some new programming coming, some projects coming, some good problems to have, some trouble, some difficult choices to make with some of the resources you all have helped us accumulate to determine exactly what we want to do. It's not a tremendous amount of money. I don't want to overblow it, but you know, this is not an endeavor to make money for a lot of people, for anybody really. So the goal is to take what we can make and redistribute it in different ways to develop some different projects. And please do contact us at blackpowermedia.org and mediablackpower@gmail.com. If you have ideas, suggestions, things you want to contribute, maybe even yourself. Just a little bit. Anyway, hope all of you are well. Shout out to all the remixers. What's up, Netflix? Yeah, I see you. Yeah, you got to get one of the. Yeah, we got to make a deal. I ordered this through Melanin Apparel. You know, there's a strong T-shirt battle, game here on the channel. So I'm actually trying to reach out to them to see if we can get our first endorsement deal here at, if not at BPM, at least I Mix What I Like. We rock a lot of Melanin Apparel here. So, but anyway, good morning to you, Netfa, Craig, Dawn, Big Teal, Obioma, Shirley. Thank you very much. I did get your tweet, and we are going to be incorporating that into the discussion this morning, since we're going to be talking about buying power anyway. So shout out to you, Shirley, a little early on the shout out. You did contribute, and we are going to get to that this morning. Ricky Ryan, what's up? Sugar Booger, Roz Elbow, KD, good looking out. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Anyway, are the brothers here? So let me bring them up. Good morning, brother Kaba. How you doing, my man?
Good morning, and welcome to I Mix Melanin Apparel. What I Like.
That's what I'm saying.
That's
we gotta reach out to these cats,
but can't feed the poor. Yeah, that's a Tupac quote. That. Like, they got money for wars, but can't feed the poor. Yeah, Melanin Apparel. So I guess it's Melanin Apparel Fridays.
Melanin Apparel.
Good morning
Fridays.
to everybody.
Yeah, man, we're gonna have to You know, it occurred to me a couple weeks when we first started this little tag team. I was so excited that I thought I had deciphered the origins of your first name. We never even got to your second name, Akintunde, like in terms of the meaning of that. So it just occurred to me the other day that we hadn't covered that. So I was all excited about, doing the Ka and the Ba and the soul singer and all of that. I was like, I'm done. And obviously that's not even your full name. So I didn't know, I not to put you on the spot, but I didn't know if you wanted to clarify that or say anything about that.
Akintunde is of Nigerian origin. It's a Yoruba name. I was actually initiated into the Yoruba culture, 20 plus years ago, which is the Ifa system, which is an ancient African spiritual. It's more than just, for Africans. It's not just the spirituality. It's not detached from everything else. It's just included in everything. It's all encompassing for Africa. So we don't do spirituality over here and politics over there and culture over there. It's all in one. So it's all a cultural thing. So, but that being said, I was initiated into that in the late 90s, and I was given the name based on my characteristics or whatever. One of the names I was given was Akintunde, which means the valiant or brave man has returned. Akin, and then Tunde actually means return or to come back. Like some people might have heard of people named Mama Tunde or Baba Tunde. It means the mama has returned or the father has returned. And usually they're talking about like an ancestor, like a great, father or mother in that particular person's line. So they'll be called Baba Tunde, or Oba Tunde means the king returns. We've heard things like that. So Akintunde just means the valiant one, or the valiant man has returned. Yeah.
Seems appropriate, right on, and he has returned to this pro. That's right. That's right. He's back with his melanin Fridays. Hey, I never was initiated in anything, but it's funny you said that. But when I was in Tanzania the first time, this brother there said he had asked me why I had come back or something like that, and I had said I wanted to visit the motherland and do all the stuff that I wanted to return to my father's ancestral lands and all this stuff. And he said, okay. And in Kiswahili, he said, well, then he said, your name is Tarudi then. Tarudi, the one who has returned, who come home, something like that. So anyway, the returning concept is abundant this morning on I Mix What I Like and Black Power Media. So
we see it all throughout.
Yeah. All throughout, obviously, correct, right on. And Omawale, from Malcolm and all of that.
All throughout Africa. I mean, Sankofa.
Sankofa, obviously.
The child returns.
The child return, all of that. Yep. All right, so before we move on, speaking of you and your work, I happen to and I don't know, are we getting there's a delay. Why are we getting a delay between me and you? I think you're not hearing me in live because anyway, I'm not sure what's going on.
That happens every week.
Does it?
It seems to happen every week. It might. Yeah, it might be just the internet, because I had it. That was why I was late this morning. I was just having a problem getting on. It was crazy. Trying to get on here today. But
I think, unfortunately, it's something specific to your setup. You are here, but I think it's something specific to your setup, because this is actually never happened with anybody but you. So I don't know exactly what that means, but this delay is specific. This is a specifically different internet issue. But I hope we can work that out, because it would help at least a little bit, because I wanted to ask you a little bit about your show this week. I caught some of it. Actually, I caught the whole thing. And you raised a point. There was one point, at least, that was raised that is somewhat relevant as a segue to some of the stuff I know we want to get to this morning. But you talked about Brother Amos Wilson, and you were quoting him and referencing something he was talking about, something to the extent, something about the importance of land to sovereignty. And it was funny because you had read a clip from
Mhm.
him, and he says he uses the word, I think, dominate or control. And you responded to that like, like, I don't think he means it in the way the Europeans. But it's funny you said that, because in the study group I'm in with the All African People's Revolutionary Party, we were reading some Sekou Touré, and he was talking about in one of his discussions of philosophy, he was saying basically the same thing, the importance of land, but he was using that dominate and control, and we had a discussion in the group about why that language, why it made some of us uncomfortable, why we think he didn't mean it in the way Europeans meant it. But anyway, so it was just something that I made a note as I jotted that down. I didn't have any other specific point or comment to raise about that, but I did just want to, I noted that as I was listening to your show this week on Mondays, Jazz and Justice, African Deep Thought Edition, WPFW 89.3. Our dear brother Netfa and others are rock with them, as I did for a while. So anyway, I'll leave it there. I don't know if there's no point or question. I just noted that and thought I would raise it.
No, I think that's important. And can you hear me?
Yep, perfectly.
Can you hear me? Okay,
yep.
Cool. Yeah. I thought that was important, and I think part of it is just the fact that we are we are. It's a carryover from just being dominated by people, and there's this notion in the Christian context of being stewards of the land and being able to having dominion. This whole thing. So I think that's just really a carryover, and because we speak, we compromise, we speak our oppressor's language, some of that stuff just carries over. But a lot of times we mean different things. Even when we use somebody else's language, we still have our own kind of idiosyncrasies when it comes to language. I was just looking at this meme the other day, and it was talking about how Black people, like all over the world, Africans, whether we're in the Caribbean, whether we're in America, whether we're on the continent or wherever, Europe, wherever we are, when we use it, we do this thing where we emphasize, like, it was bad, but it wasn't bad. It was good, but it wasn't good. It was, or like same, or, there's this kind of like, we emphasize things no matter where we are. So it's just those kind of Africanisms are seen all throughout. Even in Medu Neter, in the hieroglyphics, I took classes with Ra, author of Let the Ancestors Speak, years ago. He's now an ancestor, but even there, they will have certain symbols and certain symbols that will emphasize certain things. Even with the term Kemet, the M is emphasized to emphasize Blackness of the people and of the country. So it's just something that I think we just always had. Or even when we talk about something, that wasn't just a long train or a very long train, man. That was a long train. Man, that's a bad system. We kind of the elongations. So that's just something that that is consistent with African people, no matter where we are, all on the planet. So yeah.
And then Run DMC, of course.
But what did you want to go to first, brother?
And said, not bad meaning bad, but bad meaning good. Anyway. No, there's a number of things I wanted to get to. Yeah. Man, we gotta get the lag though, man. We can't be lagging like this. I don't know. I think I'm gonna switch to my phone.
I think I'm gonna switch to my phone. Let me switch it to my phone, because I'm on a new laptop, and I think that's part of the problem. But unfortunately, I won't be broadcast.
Be the problem, though. But that shouldn't be the problem, though. Why should that? I don't understand why the laptop should make it work. Anyway, all right, there he is. Anyway, I hope we can.
Let me get out of this other thing.
Mm-hmm. No, I took you out already. Yeah, there you go. Anyway, yeah, I hear you. Yeah, it's not as good hearing you, but at least
because I'm not connected to my mic and everything. So. Yeah, but I might be able to fix that too. Let me hold on a second.
I don't know. Man, at some point though, I do. I don't know. We got to check. We got to get everything. We got to check the rig, because that shouldn't be a problem. But by the way, while he's doing that, I did. I try to avoid it during the show, but I did look in the chat. I did. So yeah. By the way, everybody, I think there was a question about me and AAPRP. So a long time, man. I've been in AAPRP, orbit for decades, and but just took the time, in this COVID moment over the last year or so. And I had even at one point started going through some of the process, but anyway, just officially joined. That's all. So I'm just, humbly and happily submitting myself through the process and going through my work study, and which is great because even if some of it is review, it is, worthy of it. So we're right now reading Revolution, Culture, and Pan-Africanism by Ahmed Sekou Touré. And that's where we were talking about. In fact, I have to lead some of the study tomorrow morning because I'm in a group that is actually based in Germany. So for my time, I got to for me, it's not really getting up early, but it's starting earlier than I normally would. But I got to lead the discussion with them tomorrow morning on that. And anyway, so I'm, it's cool. And it's good to be linking up with African people all around the world and parts of the diaspora that I'm not, normally engaged with. And some younger people who are probably the age of my normal or average student, but at least politically are just sharp and way advanced, particularly from where I was at that age. So on that level alone, it's great to be back in concert with them. So yeah. So anyway, yeah. So that's what that is. So anyway, Kaba, welcome back, man. How we doing?
Doing well. Can you hear me?
Yeah, hear you well. That sounds at least a little better. And I hope
right, cool.
I hope we're not lagging though. But anyway, but some of the things I wanted us to get to, there's a couple things. There's actually a number of things that the list started growing. And shout out to Shirley who sent me something that we're gonna have to add to this mix, pun intended. But there were a couple things that we didn't get to on the Remix Morning Show that I at least want to get to. I'm just going to go through it very quickly because I would just like for more of us to be paying attention to some of this stuff. And I really do dig the work of this Martens couple, Marten, who run this blog here, Wall Street on Parade. So they had a story that came out last week. Crypto will be put under the microscope at June 30th House hearing. And I just want to quickly clarify. I understand that things can get a little bit complicated and nuanced, etc. I am in no way want to be seen as in trying to defend the established capitalist order. In fact, what I am trying to say more broadly is that what is called capitalism is really a state-supported, sponsored, managed, and controlled extraction of wealth from all of us to the tiniest, less than 0.1% of the population. And my point in phrasing it that way is that I keep wanting to remind, particularly those of us who are encouraged on a daily basis, if not even more than that, to see our salvation through business and capital and entrepreneurialism, that is not how wealth is created. That is not what the wealthy are doing. That is not what they have ever done. And it is a con game imposed on us to make sure we never access our political power, which is organization, movement, and the assumption of political power, which develops public policy, which determines everything. Okay, so I just want to restate that very clearly because I think there was some confusion about my criticism here. So when I read the Martens' work and reference it, they're not, as far as I'm aware, they're not revolutionaries. They are well-studied economists with a background in that Wall Street world who are unearthing all of the hypocrisies, contradictions from their perspective in a non-revolutionary way, just how the mechanism works and how government and the state and oversight as it's supposed to be, et cetera, are all sort of incestuously working together to rip everybody off. All right, so so that's it. So to connect it to crypto, when people are coming in now and saying that the real salvation is to start to engage and invest in a currency that is supposed to be a deliverance of freedom, a deliverer of freedom, because it is not supported by the state, not regulated, they are, I think, more and even more than normal missing the point about how all of this works and encouraging us to get caught up in a con game, a Ponzi scheme, or as the Martins have pointed out, to be the last fool to participate in a process that depends on the greater fool theory, which is just that another fool will come along and pay more for whatever it is that you have paid for previously and now want to sell. All right. So what they were doing, what the Martins were doing here is just looking a little bit at, well, just as it says here, the House Financial Services Committee on Oversight and Investigations, chaired by Congressman Al Green of Texas, will hold a hearing on June 30th titled America on Fire. Will the crypto frenzy lead to financial independence and early retirement or financial ruin? The announcement of the hearing came yesterday, the same day the Wall Street on Parade reported the Federal Trade Commission was witnessing a skyrocketing increase in crypto scams. Reports to the FTC's Consumer Sentinel suggest scammers are cashing in on the buzz around cryptocurrency and luring people into bogus investment opportunities in record numbers. Since October 2020, reports have skyrocketed, with nearly 7,000 people reporting losses of more than $80 million on the scams. And I just want to paraphrase and quickly, just remind people that when it says people are reporting losses of more than $80 million on these scams, what is really a better way to understand that is that those running these scams have increased their intake by $80 million. They have that $80 million doesn't just get lost. A loss means it has gone over to somebody else. It has been stolen from them. It should be better, I think, maybe even better said. Just moving ahead a little bit here. And again, this is not a revolutionary, but I still think it's a concern worthy of our attention. One of the biggest crypto critics has been Nouriel Roubini, chairman of Roubini Macro Associates and a former senior economist for international affairs in the White House's Council of Economic Advisors during the Clinton administration. Roubini has also worked for the International Monetary Fund, the Federal Reserve, the World Bank, was professor of economics at New York University Stern School of Business from 1995 to 2021. And Roubini has this to say: Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies, currency is a misnomer. They're not a unit of account. They're not a scalable and widely used means of payment. With Bitcoin, you can do 5 transactions per second. With the Visa network, you can do 25,000 transactions per second. It is not a stable store of value over wealth or goods and services, and is not a single numero, as you have thousands of tokens, and therefore it's likely going back to barter. That's not a single numero to have price transparency. So they're not currencies. And if when soon there'll be central bank digital currencies, they're going to dominate for payment services, not only cryptocurrencies, but also private forms of money like deposits in the banking system or online payment services. The question is whether they are assets. For something to be an asset, it has to provide you some income, like stocks or bonds or loans or real estate. They don't provide you any income. Residential, residential real estate provides you housing services. Gold provides you not income, but used as an industry or jewelry as a utility. While Bitcoin is not having any income, doesn't have any issues, doesn't have any liquidity services, doesn't have any uses, doesn't have any liquidity services, doesn't have any utility. What's the intrinsic value of it? It's just a self-fulfilling bubble, end quote. Now, again, I'm not saying that somebody who comes out of Wall Street, the IMF, the Federal Reserve, the World Bank, NYU, Stern School of Business, I'm not saying that this is, again, a revolutionary or somebody we should trust for our political analysis or education. What I am saying is that people like that have a vested interest in a state bank-backed, regulated, capital, resource, extractive, exploitative process theft. So on the one hand, they don't want to see their process undermined by something that can't do the same, provide the same level of stable theft and extraction of resources and labor from the masses of us. They need something stable. So you can't have the elite can't organize their robbery of us if the value of the currency they're using to perform that exploitation changes every 5 minutes. If you don't know what the value of a currency is today versus 5 minutes from now versus tomorrow, you can't do all of the scams that they're doing by the millisecond with their high-level computing trading technologies and platforms, where they're investing all over the world, where they are betting on the futures and shorting stocks and doing all these things and the derivatives and all the scams that destroy everything all the time, that happen every 7 or 8 years. And as we talked about before, the Martins have reported there's another one coming, and it's going to be probably even bigger than what we saw in 2008, given the variables they were looking at. For them to do that, they need something that they can lean on, including, as we're going to come back to later, after all of it collapses, the ability to lean on a state-backed federal, Federal Reserve is private, but a state-backed private banking system that will give up all the money, or buy up all the, the depleting, devaluing assets, or will buy up all the stuff that's going bad and save the system. You can't do that with an unregulated currency. You can't do that with a currency that has, as it was just described there, nothing backing it, nothing supporting it. All it has is the ability to get someone else to pay more for it than what it was paid before. That is not, at its base, different from the existing capitalist Ponzi scheme, but it is different in that it is unregulated and unbacked, and that it can't be used to accumulate wealth for the handful, and it can't be used to organize their extraction, and therefore can't be used by us and poor people to overturn our poverty by investing in something that itself is ultimately and largely going to be meaningless. All right, just a couple more things on this one. And this is really the reason why I wanted to show this one, because one of the core arguments around the power of cryptocurrency and Bitcoin is the blockchain technology that's supposed to protect and provide autonomy and a guarantee that people can do all of this in safety and protection and anonymity and away from regulation, away from state governments, and away from thieves. But in the 2020 winter issue of MIT Sloan Management Review carried a breathtaking assessment of blockchain's failings by Madnick. And before I forget, if you read Surveillance Valley, and one day we're going to do an extended thing on this book, Surveillance Valley, about the history of the media system we have, one of the points that they make is that the backing of all of this, the dark web, the Tor, BitTorrent, all, blockchain, all this that people have always thought was free of government influence, free of surveillance potential, was itself funded, backed from the beginning by the NSA and the government, intentionally to create this idea that there is this secret dark web free of the state and blah, 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 but has its own backdoors built in that through which they can come and catch people whenever they want, including like they did the other day with this big international quote unquote drug ring that they caught or broke down, whatever. So it's not the autonomous space, free space. All the murders are being plotted and all the drugs are being sold and all the stuff is happening out there. It's happening out there because, like my man John Judge, the late John Judge, used to say, you can't have organized crime without organized police. So the idea that this is not being, back to this piece here. carried a breathtaking assessment of blockchain's failings. The list of failings was extensive, but as it pertains to U.S. markets, the following weaknesses should cause heart palpitations at the Securities and Exchange Commission. A traditional centralized system simply stops if the computer fails. In a blockchain system, the software operates simultaneously on such a preponderance of servers that even if one or more servers fails, the system continues running. That has obvious benefits, but it also means that there is no central on-off switch. And put it plainly, there are times when you need to shut things off. The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, for instance, mandated the creation of circuit breakers after the May 6, 2010 flash crash that saw the S&P 500 drop 8.6% in a single day. The system now automatically shuts down trading if there is a sudden steep market decline. In contrast, blockchain systems are not intended to ever stop. Even if an attack is discovered on a blockchain system, servers around the world will operate. In the example of the software flaw on the Ethereum system, in particular, the smart contract for the Distributed Autonomous Organization, DAO, there was no way to stop the intruder from continuing to siphon off money. The ad hoc solution, such as it was to have a group of good guys use the same flaw to siphon off money faster than the bad guy and then return them as much money as possible to its rightful place. Blockchain's transparency may have made matters worse during the race against the clock. There was an active public blog, mostly used by smart contract developers, where suspicions about possible flaws were posted for over a month. The blog probably aided the attacker in learning about the suspected flaw and how to exploit it. Furthermore, by monitoring posts, the attacker knew when the hack had been discovered and hence when it had time to disappear. In the end, about $50 million was stolen. All right. Kaban, let me bring you back in, and I just want to reiterate that the reason I'm finding this so important, and before we go to the next piece similar to this, is that I'm trying to argue that what we need, Black people, starting with humanity in general, is an organized economy that is regulated, that is managed by an accountable authority, an elected body, perhaps, that guarantees that the wealth we are all helping to create is distributed in such a way that there is no inequality and poverty. It's certainly such like what we see. When people are advocating that we move to cryptocurrencies and all this other stuff where there is not even the safety nets that currently operate only for the elite, and suggest that we can avoid those safety nets to our benefit, I'm saying this is the mythology, and this is the end run around a political struggle that we need to have. That is a problem for me. So let me just stop there. Let you say anything you'd like to say, and before we move on.
Yeah, there was a lot in there, and
Yeah.
for one of the early things that you said reminded me that when you're talking about how the elites kind of run things, I was thinking that whole adage about socialism does exist, but it exists for the rich and the wealthy and the powerful, because those regulating bodies that they have, like for instance, right now, Jim Crow Joe is over there meeting with the G7 summit, and basically they meet in a nutshell to decide, among themselves how they're going to rule things, how this is going to work out, so on and so forth. But they basically have a cartel, a conglomerate. So that's basically a socialist kind of a situation for them. And then of course it's capitalism for us, as they capitalize off of us. And then another thing I was thinking, just in terms of crypto, when you were talking about it, you talk about the Ponzi scheme. I was thinking about back in the day, you remember back in the 90s, everybody was on the Amway,
Yeah.
and they're saying that in a lot of the arguments that people are making for crypto, people were making back then. And for those who don't know, because you and I are pushing 50, Amway was basically a multi-level marketing scheme whereby you try to get as many people under you as possible in order to build up your cachet, so that you could basically chill and have all these different people working under you, selling different products, toothpaste, cookies, laundry detergent, all kinds of different things that you would sell. And then everybody was trying to get different people under them to work out. So basically, I was thinking like crypto is like the new Millennium Amway.
I'm telling you. I mean, it's just another, I think, Ponzi scheme.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, that's a good.
Yeah.
Unfortunate bad memory for some, but yeah, I remember Amway. I mean, I remember that joint.
Man, I remember I thought I was going to a party, man. I was going to a party. I thought I was going to meet some sisters or whatever. I get up and then the brother turned the music off and it turned into our Amway presentation, brother. I was like, man, I'm out.
That's slick. That's slick.
But another thing.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. That's it.
Well, another thing I was just thinking, just going back to last week, and I would encourage folks to go back to last week's discussion, and we were kind of talking about the same thing. But I mean, I just was thinking about the land again. I mean, and shout out to the chat too. I did go back and check out some of the comments from last week, and people were on it. Like people were saying the land before we actually got to talking about the land. Like people were on it. They were already anticipating where we were going with this. So the audience here is phenomenal, man, because, I always say, people talk about a great show and a great network and things, but really if there was not an audience for it, we'd be talking to ourselves,
That's right. That's
and
right.
so
I like to say we have a relatively small but thoughtful audience.
Yeah.
It's very, very deep, very dope.
And it's a reflection of the ideas. So shout out to the chat. And I'm one of them as well. I listen and whatnot, everything. But I think this whole crypto thing is just another medium of exchange. And as I said last week, basically, if you don't have resources, if you don't have the land, if you're lacking, you're going to create and develop currencies to take the place and substitute for resources. And if you have the power to then dominate and control people, then you have people focus more on the medium of exchange and not necessarily the actual resources, the actual real goods, the actual real commodities, which are, of course, again, in the land. And so people get so caught up on the medium, they get so caught up on the dollarism, they get so caught up on the currency and chasing paper and all of that, that they forget that the basic necessities, all the things that they're using to get, to acquire the currency is in the land. And so, it seems folksy, and people were saying free the land, and I forgot to say that last week, but yeah, free the land. I mean, and people have become so used to that, to focusing on that medium, that they think that they forget that the true wealth again is in the land, and the true resources and the wealth. And the beautiful thing about that is that you're never going to really have a crash. It's that kind of system is not going to crash, because any Ponzi scheme, whether it's capitalism or crypto capitalism, if you will, at some point it's going to crash, because it's all a house of cards. It's all a Ponzi scheme. And usually the people holding the bag are going to be the people on the bottom. The crash is going to hurt mostly the people on the bottom. So, we have to really understand, how these things work, and what we need to really be focusing on, which is land acquisition, and of course you will need mediums of exchange. People have mediums of exchange all throughout history, because, obviously you can't carry around a whole bunch of, mangoes or something like that. So you might need something, so it was really, currencies were really created for convenience, but they were always backed by something. And up to, of course, what was it, 1913 Christmas Day, the United States went off gold, it went off the gold standard, so and they did it while, of course, everybody was on Christmas break and celebrating, and people weren't paying attention. The media wasn't paying attention, or at least, they were pretending like they weren't paying attention, so the currency, even now that people are chasing, that's not even backed by anything. So that's basically what people are talking about when they say it's not backed by anything. And to my point again last week, even going back beyond gold, because you can't eat it. The gold, was actually, a form of currency, because it was, a beautiful thing, and we could use it for different things. But at the end of the day, you really need to get to the basic resources that everybody needs, and it's in the land, and not be so caught up and enamored with the currencies.
Well, that's why, as you were talking, I thought to just bring this up a little bit from Malcolm X in 1964, I believe, while he was in Egypt. He wrote, this statement about dollarism and Zionism. And as he said here, the modern 20th century weapon of neo-imperialism is dollarism. The Zionists have mastered the science of dollarism, the ability to come posing as a friend and benefactor, bearing gifts and all other forms of economic aid, and offers technical assistance. Thus, the power and influence of Zionist Israel in many of the newly independent African nations has fast become even more unshakable than that of the 18th century European colonists. Just moving down a little bit, dollarism is the number one weapon of the 20th century imperialism is Zionist dollarism, and one of the main bases for the weapon is Zionist Israel. So I know that this is often brought up as a critique of Israel and Jews and so on and so forth, but at its base, separating Zionism from Jews and Judaism and understanding, and all of that. But his point was, and I think still is, currency is about imperialism and conquering. The idea that an unregulated currency would be free of that and somehow allow people to themselves become free is, I think, part of the fantasy and the myth that is promoted, particularly to Black people at this time, as to why we should get involved with cryptocurrency. But what is the point that I keep wanting us to come back to that I think is missed is that what makes the dollarism imperialism, to your point, is that it's backed by state imperial policy and practice that desires control, if not total
and armies.
Conquering of and armies, but desires the land and control the resources coming out of the land and the people who work the land. So it's anyway. So to the idea that some I don't know, disembodied currency, so to speak, is going to be a freeing thing, I think misses all the points about what currency is and how it's meant to work. So
unless we form a people's army and then back the crypto with that. But other than that,
but again,
I know this.
No, I think, but I mean, I know why you bring it up, but I'm saying, but I think what's important, the reason I think that even a semi joke like that is important is because it gets to the point of what currency actually is. Because when I say assume political power, I'm not saying it has that. In fact, I'm specifically not saying to do that by voting for either a Democrat or Republican. I'm saying there are other methods that are required to assume political power. But you speak to that point, militarily or otherwise. You have to be an organized body that is backing the currency to give it power and authority. And so if that's not part of the plan, and you're just running around here like Harper and whoever else telling Black people to buy up currencies to get rich, it's just wrong.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. And to be specific, when I say land, I'm not just talking about land just for real estate purposes.
Right. Exactly.
I thought about that because I'm thinking like some people because people are saying, yeah, you need to buy land, But no, I'm not talking about for no real estate.
Flip a house.
Flipping house. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about extracting the resources. I'm from Florida. You can grow mangoes. My parents got a big mango tree in the backyard. Nobody has to pay. That's funny too, man, because I can remember, being a kid, and it's natural. Being a kid, like the house that they stay in now, they have mangoes. At the house where I grew up, we didn't have mangoes, but we had grapefruit tree in the back. We had a Chinese plum tree in the back, and I had a neighbor that had grapefruits, and a neighbor that had mangoes. Or another one that had oranges and tangerines and stuff, and we used to trade. Okay, well, I'll give you, 2 mangoes for 2 oranges, and as kids, like this, it's natural for people to do that. It wasn't about trying. What can I get? How can I scheme you and scam you out of things? It's like, okay, you want some grapefruits? Well, this is a big grapefruit, so obviously this is about, it's worth maybe 2 mangoes because your mangoes are kind of medium size. We had some really big grapefruits on our tree. So, that's just how we did it. So that's what I'm talking about when I talk about the land. I'm talking about the resources.
Absolutely. Similarly, this was another story I didn't get a chance to get to this week on the remix that I just wanted to quickly throw out today because similar to what we've just been talking about and similar to my, and I'm going to keep bringing this up probably forever, those who keep telling us we had to vote for Biden to push him left. Just yet one more example of why that is, fantasy, fallacy, etc. Because under him, the same chicanery as he promised, because he said nothing would ever change, nothing was going to change. it's still going on. So as the Martins explain here, Wall Street captured Fed consolidates its power under Biden. I won't go through this too much, but just that Janet Yellen, the current U.S. Treasury Secretary, is also the chair of the Financial Stability Oversight Council, which includes every Wall Street regulator. Therefore, coming to the Treasury Department, Yellen was the chair of the Federal Reserve and had spent the bulk of her working career at the Fed or the San Francisco Fed. And then they just go to talk about, while she had been temporarily out of that particular role, at least as Fed chair, removed by Donald Trump, she just went immediately and, as they said, cashed her chips in on Wall Street, collecting millions of dollars in speaking fees in 2019 and undisclosed millions more in 2018. And they cover more of that in another piece.
Yeah.
And we'll put all the links to this in the show notes as well. And then just lastly, just to point out that in terms of my point about public policy helping the richest of the rich organize their extraction of the wealth, they talk about the bailouts to some of the biggest banks that were supported by and overseen by Janet Yellen, including the largest recipient of Fed's bailouts was Citigroup. It received a cumulative total of more than $2.5 trillion in below market loans. Because this is, I'm sorry, I skipped this important point. Yellen was the Federal Reserve governor when she was appointed Fed chair. Her term as governor didn't expire until 2024. Yellen could have remained in that position. Instead, she opted for millions of dollars in quick cash from the very same mega banks that the Fed had been regulating during her tenure there. These were also the same banks that had blown up the U.S. financial system in 2008 and received a super secret $29 trillion Fed bailout. And I want to talk about that just quickly because I actually read the report and I want to show it to you because as they point out, Citigroup, already one of the biggest banks in the world, was itself one of the largest recipients of this $29 trillion, getting $2.5 trillion. I want to just show you this very quickly. I actually read this. It's not terribly long, and I don't claim to understand the methodology. So I'm going to link all of this in the show notes to this, and anybody who knows this stuff better or who's just smarter can look into it and check me if any of their conclusions are wrong, because I don't honestly understand what they were doing. They were, the details at least. What they're talking about essentially is the lender of last resort, which is what the Fed, the private group of banks that back the U.S. government and other, this central bank of the United States and other, states have central banks that do the same thing. What they're talking about here is what the lender of last resort did to save everybody, not everybody, the elite in 2008. So they go through and explain, how they've showed all this, because it took a few years after all the documents were released after 2008. And I just want to get to sort of the highlight here for our purposes, because at the end of the day, from what I think is important to understand is that it is public policy and political power, not financial acumen, not banking strategy, not investment strategy, not financial literacy that allows for this kinds of wealth transfers to go from all of us to those at the top. It is a public policy arrangement that allows for a federal government to set policy backed by its arrangements with private central banks to do this kind of stuff that is highlighted here, while they tell us to start your bank, circulate your dollar, something we're going to come back to again. Shout out to Shirley. And buy black, bank black, do all this stuff while they are transferring $29 trillion. All right. To all of the top banks and hedge funds, et cetera, the too big to fail institutions. So this table here isn't even the whole thing. It's just the top institutions that got 83% of the 29 trillion that was given away.
Mm.
All right. Citigroup is at the top with its 2.6 trillion, a billion rather, because these are thousands of billions. Merrill Lynch, Morgan Stanley, Bank of America, BNP, Goldman Sachs, Bear Stearns, which doesn't even exist anymore, Credit Suisse, JP Morgan Chase, which just gave $40 million to Killer Mike for his autonomous Greenwood bank, black-owned bank situation. UBS, and if anybody ever studies any of this, UBS has been caught up in so much international trifling, money laundering, drug. I mean, they've been caught up in so much that have paid billions in fines. But why do they care?
They don't even care. They don't care.
That's what I'm saying.
They could just pay it off. Just like
there
the police. Just like the police, they don't care. They got slush funds. They just, so what, we get whatever brutality.
And they pay it off, Kaba, with
whatever.
our money.
Yeah.
Or they pay it off. I shouldn't even say that. They pay it off with money
that they took.
That was either taken from us or created out of nothing.
True.
And just given to them, while they tell us, oh, no, we can't afford to give you anything more than $1,400 for some of you. And we don't have, whatever. We don't have healthcare. We don't have anything. We can't afford anything. But so I just wanted to, and again, just to tie it up, this is public policy. This is not business acumen. This is because they have political power. They didn't go and run to start buying up Bitcoin to say, wow, we lost, trillions.
It wasn't because they were smart with their money, because they didn't go out and buy the newest Jordans and the Nikes. And by the way,
exactly,
I had my oldest son. He's a good kid. He wanted me to buy him some Nikes, man, some Jordans or whatever. I went ahead and did it, man. I was just like, man, these things, because I've never bought a pair of Jordans in my life, because those things, I'm pretty frugal anyway. So maybe that's why I'm on this whole, going back to the land thing. But I saw the price of them joints. I was like, man, but
I almost got by a social media ad for I haven't bought Jordans since I think the original ones when I was in 8th grade or whatever.
Yeah.
But they came out with those black goats. Have you seen the black goat?
I've seen them.
Man,
they cold.
I almost did it. I almost did it.
Man. They cold.
I was like, man, you could go ahead and be a hypocrite and contradict yourself. But the reality is I just couldn't afford it. That was really it. I did click on it. I was like, I might do it. And I saw that several $100 price tag. And I was like, man, I can't.
Well, we actually found these on sale, but it was still, too much money in my opinion.
I mean,
it's not a regular occurrence. I just let it slide this time. Yeah.
Look, whatever we would say about that, I would at least say that choice is not why you or the rest of us are in our financial situation. That's my point. And I did want to say too, going back to the end, because as you were talking, I was thinking like, they're creating this money out of nothing and so on. So money is, as it's currently, situated, it's really confidence. It's really based on what we. That's all. That's right.
What we believe it is, which is why last year really hurt them, because a lot of people weren't spending a whole lot of money, and when you don't do that, then it decreases in value. So again, if we would go back to this land and not focus so much on the currency, we wouldn't really be tripping over money and dollarism, as Malcolm put it. And if that happens, the whole thing would crash, because we wouldn't be chasing the dollars, because they extract the resources, the money from us, basically the people on the bottom, the 99%, if you will, but if we really got back to the land and really not, detached ourselves from being so dependent on money, on dollars, the whole thing would crash. And then I was thinking, when you talk about Wall Street and Biden, we have to remember that Kamala Harris polled about 4%. Okay, she polled at 4% when she ran, and for Black folks, she only polled at 12%, right? And she dropped out of the race before the first primary, which means in like a month before, I'm a top tier candidate, of course, and she was the top one to fall up out of there. But it was Wall Street that wanted to put her in there. And one of the main reasons is because, if you recall, she did that favor I forget the name. I think it was like One Bank or something, like One Something Bank. out in California.
One United Bank.
One United Bank with
Black-owned
Steve
bank.
Mnuchin. With Steve Mnuchin, who was with the Trump administration, and she allowed him to skate free without any kind of prosecution.
right.
They were doing all kinds of. Now, I don't think it was a black bank. It was.
It wasn't One United Bank. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
it was the Mnuchin thing. Right. I'm sorry.
It was Steve Mnuchin. But yeah, she let him skate. And this is a guy who was, again, was in the Trump administration. And she didn't do anything. And they were doing all kinds of crazy stuff, man, with stealing people's money, people losing their homes and stuff. It was crazy. But she was somebody that was a sweetheart for Wall Street. And so that's why they really pushed hard to make her his VP choice. So that's something we got to remember as well. And then the last thing I thought about was that, economics
One
is
West
really
Bank. Sorry.
One West. That's
Bank.
it. One West Bank. Economics is a social science. People think it's a hard science. It's actually a social science. It dictates behavior, and the person that really kind of laid that out really deeply is a Swedish economist in 1944 by the name of Gunnar Myrdal, and he had a book called An American Dilemma: The Negro Problem in a Modern Democracy, and he basically laid out how economics affects the system, and how it really fuels and really serves as a buttress to racism, and keeps us in a cycle, as he calls it, the negative cycle of all these social ills and pathologies. So and it's done deliberately. So economics is really a social science. And to your point, they can create money out of the air if they wanted to, and that's basically what they've been doing.
Look, even Marx and Engels were clear that they said they only talked about capitalism because it was what dominated society. That was the if you wanted to understand social relationships, they said you had to understand capitalism because that was the point. So it was never for them about economic determinism, or, to your point, it was never to try to isolate economics from social existence. Quite the opposite. And in fact, to the AAPRP work study that we were talking about, that was Teray's, what we think at least Teray was trying to get to when he was talking about, at the time, man's need to conquer land. It's just that language doesn't sound right today. Man's need to conquer land. Like I know you didn't mean man as in males, and I know you didn't mean conquer like in white folks, but it just doesn't sound right. Anyways.
Yeah.
All right, so a couple other things, just quickly. These are actually just quick announcements. One is, from my vantage point, a great way to celebrate Juneteenth is to join us tomorrow or to sort of pre-celebrate Juneteenth a week early. I think it's exactly a week early, is to celebrate or start your celebration with us with our accountability summit tomorrow afternoon from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern, co-hosted by myself and Dr. Joy James. And it's going to involve a number of folks from around the country, have been involved in political struggles, some mothers who have lost children to police violence, and trying to get to this issue over who are the spokespeople and what kinds of public representation for these struggles do we want. So anyway, please do check that out. I mentioned tonight's dropping of other programs on the channel. So good. All right, so let me move to this.
Before you move to that and just closing out
Sure.
the economics piece, is happy anniversary, man. Happy 17 years.
Oh man, appreciate you, man. Appreciate
so
you.
So did you buy your wife a big old rock to celebrate 17 years, man? Or is it too early?
Man, I can't even afford Jordans. We don't do big rocks. So I got her a fly, what I think is a very fly silver necklace with with a Panama medallion on it. It's
nice.
Man, So and I got from my man cave a mini fridge.
Okay.
So I'm that was big. So with all kinds of subtext, like get more comfortable, stay in that room, brother. Like the longer we can keep him in there. I'm telling you, as soon as I come home one day, there's gonna be a jailhouse toilet sink set up in the corner, and then she could be like, you can only come out, you get your one shower a day, and that's anyway. No, man, but it was great, man. We had a great time. My sister-in-law, you know, obviously the best sister-in-law in the world, took all the kids for the weekend. So we had, you know, a nice, quiet, you know, and nobody missed each other. The children didn't miss us, and we were good. No, we missed them, but we, you know what I'm saying, they didn't, you know, everybody was good. So it was great. It was great. Thank you very much, man.
Nice, man.
You know,
Panama has a special place in my heart, as you know.
I know. I know. That's, I mean, and anyone who checks it out would feel the same way. You know, so, and I always remember, man, I know he's still doing it, but I haven't, you know, when Runoko Rashidi had, like, he talks very lovingly about Panama and African people. And so I remember, you know, years even before I met my wife, I was like, man, Panama might be a spot. And anyway, even Van Sertima at one point said before even the enslavement process, one of the original populations there was an West African population. In that I don't remember the details, but anyway, so it was very interesting stuff. Anyway,
brother Mariamar, who I know here in DC from his work here in DC, he mentioned Panama on yesterday when he was talking about Garvey.
That's right. Right.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So Panama had a very strong Garveyite population. As a matter of fact, when I was there in the 90s, I actually met an elder black man who was one of the Garifuna, the African part of the African population there in Costa Rica and other places. He said that his grandfather, it might have been his father, I forget which one, had actually worked on the Panama Canal, and they had come from Jamaica to work on the Panama Canal. So it was, and that, I mean, just my education, man, it just exploded down there. Just learning so much and meeting so many of the people, it was great. So yeah, so Panama always has a special place in my heart.
And I always remember reading I think it was the some military Marine, I think it was I forgot his name, man. Some military official was talking about the need to create Panama out of what was then Colombia, because they needed access to the land, and they needed to control the land to cut through and create this canal so they could have, you know, make it easier to exploit and do all that other stuff. So
yeah.
Anyway, you know, some very, very disconnected from the roots of actual wealth and power are these discussions that keep coming up around buying power, especially around this anniversary of Tulsa. We do more of it on the last Open Intellectual tonight. Please go back and check out our videos with Two Black on the dollar circulation myth, on Black. That was a lot of fun, man. And Two Black he just was on top of it. And same thing with when even we were discussing Roland Martin and Hill Harper. I think that was an important discussion as well. Please go check those out. And the Black Myths podcast parts 1 and 2, where they really lay out the problems with the Black Wall Street narrative and mythology. But because I keep getting
please to the family, don't be put off by the name Roland Martin. Trust me, we made it well worth a watch. So don't be put off by Roland. Because I was put off by Roland Martin, but we made it on through.
we made it worth it, and even shouted him out on his gear. He had the fly gear on, you know. So like, but no, we it's not right. We're not.
Yeah,
right. We added
and shout out to him for the hate to the one hater. I don't know if we got one today. Probably.
No, I don't see one today.
Okay, he's not watching today. All right.
Maybe he tuned out for this one. I don't know.
Yeah.
But no, in fact though, we could use some more likes though. So folks, please do hit the like button, share, subscribe, invite folks. We got plenty more stuff to get into this morning. So yeah. Anyway. But because I get these Google alerts on buying power still, you know, I got this latest one, and you know, I've talked about her recently during Black History Month when Maggie Anderson came back to talk about, and incredibly, I did a whole video on how she wildly misquoted and misrepresents Dr. King. You know, Dr. King did not support buying black, and was very clear in his own work, Where Do We Go From Here, Chaos or Community, that he did not see that as a solution. And yet Maggie Anderson went on to say not only did he see it as a solution, but that he didn't have to call for buying black because the black business community was always right there helping the black liberation struggle. Wild misrepresentation of the facts, but she continues to do so here as well. So I actually, as a result of this, went and bought the Kindle edition for $1.99 of her co-authored book, which I want to talk a little bit about because it keeps coming up. And I had never actually read it. I've just heard it discussed so much via her and others that I didn't think it was worth the read. And I honestly have largely, met that same conclusion, having read at least some of it. But we'll talk, but I'm going to get to that anyway. 100 years after burning and bombing of Tulsa's Black Wall Street, Maggie Anderson's historic year of buying black and her groundbreaking book on our Black Year, more relevant now than ever. So again, Our Black Year is this argument she and her husband, talking about how, we'll get to that. Buying black would help black people is basically what she was saying. In 2009, long before Black Lives Matter, when the term buy black was taboo, John and Maggie Anderson, a corporate, highly educated suburban couple, decided to make their own protest against racism and inequality by buying black for an entire year. This has never been the case, by the way. Buy black as a campaign goes back hundreds of years, 150 years easily. So the idea that it was ever a taboo argument or claim is fantasy. In fact, that's part of the buying power and buying black mythology, that it has been promoted by a black business class and a black capitalist class, and of course by a white supremacist capitalist society ever since the beginning, saying that black people don't need political struggle and can always just get into their business and do and should buy black. So that even starts with a sort of fantasy here. The empowerment experiment. Okay, they described that she did the empowerment experiment, earned massive press coverage, and resulted in a landmark study conducted by the renowned Kellogg's Graduate School of Management at Northwestern University. Before I forget, if anybody can actually find the study itself, please send it to me. Now, I don't mean a reference to it. I don't mean a description of it, but the study itself. I have looked. I cannot find it. I do not see where it's referenced. I'm not clear, but they keep mentioning the empowerment experiment conducted with the renowned Kellogg Graduate School of Management at Northwestern University, which is mentioned in Our Black Year, One Family's Quest to Buy Black and in America's racially divided economy. All right. Now the reason. So anyway, she want to find the exact reference to buying power, because that is why I keep getting these email alerts. So here again, she does the same thing. The activist says her commitment to black businesses is a tribute to Dr. King, the civil rights movement, and the black entrepreneurs that funded it. So again, this is part of her trope and her myth that the civil rights movement was supported and funded by black entrepreneurs. Now, I'm not saying that this didn't happen. I'm not saying there wasn't this support, but this is not what drove the movement. And even Dr. King himself said buying black and black entrepreneurialism and black capitalism cannot work. In fact, he was extremely clear that the black bourgeoisie had in fact taken the credit for the movement, that the underclass, the working people, the people in the streets, the poor, the average black American was actually doing the work, fighting for. So this is an entire, misrepresentation of, never mind my biases, of actual history. During the empowerment experiment, and still today, black wealth is about 10% of white wealth. Maggie has identified the three sources of black business failure and black buying power's ineffectiveness, explaining one problem is that black consumers, unlike consumers of other minority and marginalized groups, do not proactively support their own businesses. All right, so this is her main argument, that the problem is us, that we aren't supporting Black businesses, and that's why Black businesses can't do more to support us. And then she uses this mythology of Dr. King and the civil rights movement being funded by entrepreneurs to basically make that same kind of argument. We know you love Dr. King. He's too big to fail as a civil rights icon. So we'll attach ourselves to him falsely and say that by supporting Black businesses, you're ultimately supporting a civil rights struggle a la Dr. King.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So that's one piece. Kaba, let me let you jump in if you like at this point, before I move on to look at her book here a little bit, as I have started reading it. But go ahead. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned the Kellogg School, and certainly, if they don't have a study, they definitely have studied us and studied how to sell to us. And one of the ways that you can, not just us, but anybody, my background is in journalism. My degree is in broadcast journalism, but my program was called mass media. It wasn't called. They said that it's called mass media because in the future there will be different forms of media, and they were right. This was in the 90s, and they were right. Like, it's not just going to be the same old traditional. So they were anticipating what we're seeing right now with the digital and all that. So we called it mass media. So anyway, under that we had broadcast and print journalism. Then we had advertising and marketing, and so we all had to get some of that, even if our emphasis was on one of those particular areas. And so I became very familiar with marketing. And one of the things that you do when you market is you want to create an emotional connection, and so saying that, you mentioned that with the Dr. King piece. Black people have an emotional connection to Dr. King. So of course, you invoke him, you invoke the emotions around that. And then you start talking about, and then after that, you create a call to action. And then basically it's saying that we haven't, like you said correctly, this whole notion of demonizing really Black people. And that always sells. Like, it's always, anytime there's a critique of the system, what tends to happen in many instances is ultimately people will come back and start blaming Black people. Well, we gotta get ourselves, we gotta do this, we gotta do that. And y'all were talking about that with Cosby the other day, in his tour. And I'm with you. I was done with him back then. I can remember working in a bookstore, in Caribou bookstore, and that book "Come On People" came out.
Oh man, with Alvin Toussaint.
Alvin Toussaint and Juan Williams. And
no, it was Cosby. It was Cosby and Toussaint, because that's why they built it. It was Cosby teaming up with this Harvard professor to tell Black people they were the reason we're poor and oppressed. But
Juan Williams was a part of that too.
He was,
and I remember that because we actually hosted a book talk with him on it at Caribou, and so of course he was challenged very vigorously, and he took it pretty well. Yeah, Juan Williams is an interesting
very interesting. Talk about Panama. He got his Panama connection too. That's right.
Yeah.
Although I'm not claiming him, we're not claiming him, but he I ran up on him one day in the streets of DC. We were just walking. I saw him in the street. I ran up on him. I was like, Juan Williams, and he was like, oh, and he stood there. I mean, he stood there, looked me dead in the eye, took the criticism. But my memory was he had that air of, hey, I got the check already. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can get mad at me on the corner all you want, but I got the check already, and I'm about to, walk off in my nice suit and, wherever I'm headed, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, all right, well, I just needed to tell you that what you said was some bulls, but whatever,
Mm-hmm. Same thing. Same kind of air of like, whatever, like, get away, peasant. I got better things to do, that kind of thing. So basically it's that blame us piece. And, and Cosby made hay off of that. And a lot of Black folks kind of got caught up in that. And so that's a great selling point. And they've realized that, in marketing, and particularly, people, when they're trying to sell this the buy Black. Personally, I don't have a problem with with supporting black businesses and buying black.
No,
but I have an understanding that that's not the reason why we have these economic disparities.
But that's the problem, though. See, that's the point.
Yeah.
That's the hustle. That's part of the branding, to make us be defensive, to say, "Oh, you don't support black business." Like when I'm critical of the reparations argument, they're like, "Oh, you don't think we should get reparations?" Jared doesn't think we should get reparations. I'm like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying stop making it a conservative version. Stop making it a soft version. And this is and this is, so I'm not saying don't support black businesses. I'm just saying stop telling me that supporting those black businesses is going to make us all free. And then specifically, as I'm going to really get to with this couple, is stop telling me to support black businesses when you're really saying you just want the bag, so to speak. You just want your money. You're not a revolutionary. You're not trying to do anything other than get your money up. And then you wrap it in black progressivism and radicalism and civil rights and pride, and it's so whack to me. That's my issue.
Yeah,
sorry.
And the people of yesterday, as you pointed out, the black businesses of yesterday that did support the civil rights struggles, they did that as they weren't there in the front lines. They came later. Most of them, in most instances, they came because there was a zeitgeist, because there was a spirit in the air that people were like, look, it was a collective effort in the community. People were kind of like on the same page, and so they kind of followed suit. Now, some of them, like I said, some of them, were there in the beginning, but for the most part, they came along as a result of a community movement, a grassroots movement that kind of pushed them along.
That's right.
And one of the things that I have to say, we have to give these folks credit for, man, is they learn from history. Like they say, okay, there's going to be, like, for instance, around George Floyd, there's going to be a zeitgeist around that. People are upset and so forth. And then they just took that energy, and then they got, as they say in media, they got ahead of the story, and they went ahead and they headed it off. They know where it's going. They know people are upset. Okay, so so this company and that corporation and this corporation we're gonna join it. Just like Malcolm said, we're gonna join it. When he criticized the March on Washington, they joined it, and then they took over, and then they just changed the energy, and it became from defund the police to refund the police. Now you had people in Congress that were talking about defund, but now they've refunded the police, as we talked about last week. So that's something that we have to always keep in mind too, is that even when the people are stirred up, and that's why political education is important, because what happens is, these people, our enemies are very shrewd, and they know they already know what's going to happen. So they already jumped out and infused themselves in it, and then redirected the conversation.
Well, that's it. There it is. So just a couple things from this book. I've not read it in its entirety, but just a few things that suggest where this argument is coming from the Andersons, and why it's such a problem. Just from the beginning here, talk about, to your point, about saying this whole thing, we don't recognize and we're not aware of our power. And then they say here, and yet there is no awesome American success story like that of Walmart, Penny's, Hilton, Hershey's, Sears, or McDonald's coming from a black family, because there is nothing in our culture, history, or experience that tells us we can do it. So they're already out of the gate with this whole thing of black people have no history, black people have no even entrepreneurial history, which is itself nonsense, and then also perpetuating the myth that these white businesses have been good for even white people. So
Walmart, where you can't even take time off. Walmart, where you don't have benefits. Come on.
And look at what Walmart has done to small white businesses.
Yeah.
Come on. I mean, look at the story of McDonald's and how even the originators got scammed out of their thing and turned it into, everything is a scam.
Brothers. Yeah, in Ohio.
Yeah,
Ray Kroc.
Everything is a scam.
Yeah.
And to your point, again, my favorite scene in that movie, The Founder, with Michael Keaton, about that story of McDonald's, is when the lawyer tells him, if you really want power over the brothers who created this thing, you don't want to fight over the restaurant. You want to fight over the land that the restaurants are put on. That's how you will take over. And that's what he did. So he was like, I can't win over the restaurant. I can't win over the product or the name. So I'll just take it from the land. I'll own the land these restaurants are on, and they will have to pay me rent, and that will give me blah, blah, blah. And that's how the McDonald's brand that we now know today really became what it is. So, Sears doesn't even exist anymore. Penny's, I'm assuming JC Penny's doesn't even exist anymore. I don't know the history of chocolate, but I'm guaranteeing that there's some small chocolate business that got put under by Hershey, probably at gunpoint, you're saying? I don't know. But I'm just saying, like, why would we hold these up as examples and say, man, we need a black Walmart? What? First of all, you can't have one. That's why there's only one Walmart, white or black, period. So,
right.
Then very quickly, they do this other thing. Like, we don't have a sense of pride like Hispanics, Jews, Asians, and Middle Eastern folks, which is, I mean, again, even the Jewish community, if you look beyond the facade of the landlords and the bankers or the executives, there is here and abroad a poor community behind it, an exploited community behind it. We certainly wouldn't look at all of Latin America and be like, oh, they're good, we should just be like them. And then as we went through with Two Black in particular, what Asian are you talking about?
Right.
Like, who are the Asians and the Middle Eastern folks? Are there no differences? They're all chilling. Everybody comes over here with a sense of pride and community and knowledge of history. So, I mean, they just set up from the beginning these tropes that do not get supported or expanded. Like I was tempted to say, and some might be tempted to say now, well, Jared, you're just reading part of the introduction. They're going to really get into this later in the book and expand and add depth and numbers and data. They don't. They don't. They just repeat one trope after another. Here's my buying power. No citations, by the way. There's no references to this stuff. There's no. I'm sorry.
That's Manny Marable's book.
Let me be clear. Yeah. No, I wouldn't even go that far. There are references and citations in this book. What I'm saying is specifically the references or citations to claims like this, and as we'll talk about in just quickly in a moment, circulating dollars and all that stuff, those don't have substantive data or support. That's what I mean. Even the references they use are not themselves substantive. So in some ways it's even worse than it's not as bad as Marable, that is. Another thing, just very quickly, they come out of the Rainbow Push Coalition, religious social development organizations led by Reverend Jackson Sr., the NAACP, United Negro College Fund. So just politically, this is where Maggie Anderson is coming out of. So I'm not going to say anything, her University of Chicago law degree and MBA, if anybody, if you know anything about the University of Chicago and particularly its relationship to the study of neoliberal economics,
Milton Friedman,
that whole crew, like
Obama's Chicago boys that he filled.
Obama, I was gonna say, thank you. I love that. That's what I'm talking about, Kaba. That's why I like this tag team we got. That's what I'm talking about. All of it, like if you understand that this is the worldview she's coming out of to tell us how, again, we don't have a history, we don't care about our history, we don't support one another, these other groups are this, that, and the third. And then did she talk
about how Obama didn't infuse the black community with some capital since he came from Chicago too? Did she talk about that?
No, in fact,
is that it? Did she talk about that, how he could, with a stroke of a pen, created policies that could have helped black people instead of running around telling us to pull our pants up and assassinating black men's characters every Father's Day for the first couple of years of his presidency? Did she talk about that?
I may not have seen that section. I'm admitting not to having read every page, but I don't feel like I didn't see that in my quick search or view.
I would bet my son's Jordans that it ain't in there.
There it is, folks. That's serious. So he's confident. That's serious. But similarly, and to the point I wanted to get to, because we that entrepreneurial experiment and the Kellogg, the what did she say? What was it described as? The renowned Kellogg business school. We have to understand her husband John Anderson comes out of that school. At the top of our list was Professor Stephen Rogers, who I'm going to come back to. We actually talked about already a little bit, but we can come back to. Who is the executive director of the Levy Institute for Entrepreneurship at Northwestern University's Kellogg Graduate School of Management. John, that's Maggie's husband, was a former student in his entrepreneurial finance class. Students rated him the most popular professor for 10 plus years. John had told me how impressive and demanding Rogers was in class. Kellogg is one of the top business schools in the world, and Rogers, at the top of its entrepreneurial department, is an icon. A member of the Minority Business Hall of Fame and the only Black person on the board of directors for eminent businesses like SC Johnson, Wax, and Super Value, he used his influence to be an advocate for Black business. The principle of self-help economics in the Black community, that Black people cannot make it until their businesses do, was one of his core beliefs, end quote. That to me says everything, and if not everything, a lot, but certainly to me it says everything about what the approach to this book, the substance in the book, the claims in the book. They come from a business worldview that says, again, she doesn't tout him for using his position to be an advocate for Black people. She says he's an advocate for Black business. I think that's an important distinction we have to always be clear to make. And Black businesses are not necessarily good for Black people, don't necessarily care about Black people. And there's no evidence that Black businesses can, even if they want to, be helpful to Black people collectively. And then this principle of self-help economics, and that Black people cannot make it until their businesses do. I mean, this. So again, it's not this. There's so many. It's just wrong. The whole approach to me is just wrong.
It's individualistic, man. It's hyper individualistic. It's focusing on the top, tier of the Black community, such as it is. And it really is about a money grab. I mean, when you read all of those credentials of these people, I mean, it basically just tells us all we need to know about this book and what influenced the book. And I wouldn't even be surprised if one of their, corporate, buddies came to them with this idea, or maybe even contributed in some way to this whole idea of this book. Because of course they're going to always be down with anything that has to do with blaming Black people for our collective situation, and then trying to repackage it as some kind of empowerment move, when really it's just about helping their talented 10th Negro friends get a little more bread in the pantry.
And with all due respect to our Garveyite audience, Du Bois's talented 10th is itself misunderstood by people like the Andersons, and why he called for a guiding 100th. It was not about a Black bougie.
It wasn't elitist. It wasn't elitist.
It wasn't. Yeah. He was saying we got to help our people with our access. And this is, but to your point, and I believe they even mentioned, if not in this book, in the article, Maggie Anderson references herself as that talented 10th. She's saying we need a talented 10th, as if this is what Du Bois, he was explicitly saying the opposite. So this is what I'm saying. They're like totally distorting history, and our icons, who are, again, pun intended, too big to fail as our icons. So they have to be distorted. And that's the only reason why I get so animated and passionate about it. Like, I don't even mind that they're wrong. If this is just their sort of, if this is just like a separated claim or a separate claim or argument, I'd be like, okay, we disagree. But it's when they start draping themselves in these, I just hate that. Anyway, so. Which is why I hated the fact that your boy Roland had that nice dashiki. That fly, I'm saying, and he's misrepresenting, man. He can't be doing that, bro. Now wait till someone lets us know next week he comes on with a fly dashiki and the hot new Jordans to match. That's gonna be the all I know is he better not come on there with a Melanin Apparel shirt on. Otherwise it's gonna be over. We're gonna Melanin Apparel. Holla at us. Anyway. Just quickly, a couple other things here. They do the same thing. This whole thing of Black America is the same as the GDP of other countries. and never understand that GDP is not a measurement of anything other than the wealth created by those who own the economy. It is not a measurement of inequality. It's never used in that way, and it doesn't certainly talk about the international, neo-colonial relationship that many of these smaller countries have to the bigger, broader economy. So again, just more of these mythologies that seem to be draped in numbers, so it's like, although finding actual data on how much African Americans spend on Black-owned businesses is difficult, the Kellogg analysis placed the figure between 2 and 5%. Now, by the way, when I looked at this, the Kellogg analysis that they kept talking about reads more like a class project, where the professor used his students for one semester to do internet searches. Mm-hmm. All right. And if people can check me, but as you read it more carefully than we're doing in this discussion here, that's more or less how they describe the project. And they keep making it seem deeper and more substantive, which is why I keep saying and asking and have not found even in this book, where is the actual report itself? Why can't we read the report, this groundbreaking report that keeps getting mentioned? Where is it? So if anybody has it, please let me know.
Well, similar to the way that they use Black icons to keep people from questioning the validity of their claims, they use an iconic white, institution or white school of business and marketing to keep us from actually, inquiring and deeper in that. So it's the same type of hustle.
So we can't find data. We're without explaining it so much. We're saying that we basically place the figure on what Black people spend on Black-owned businesses between 2 and 5%, and then they proceed from that unstable base to make all kinds of claims, which to make themselves seem deep, which would bring only pennies back to the black on the back dollar to the Black community. 2% of 913 billion. Now they start coming up with figures. Based on the estimated buying power of Black Americans being 913 billion in 2008. Again, they don't link it here, but I've already explained in great detail, for years now that number doesn't mean anything. But they're using it here to actually start coming up with, plans. 2% of 913 billion spent with Black-owned businesses yields $18.3 billion. 5% brings about 46 billion. What's left is 894 to 867 billion. You're about to get a lesson in the value of in the value of pennies. Consider a conservative 2% spent on Black businesses, as the Kellogg analysts did. Even the seemingly small amount can generate a lot of money. The Kellogg team calculated what would happen if by Kellogg team, they mean that one professor and those students, I'm telling you. The Kellogg team calculated what would happen if Black households with substantial disposable income, those with a total after-tax income of 75,000 or roughly 2.6 million, 2.65 million families, boosted their spending from 2% to 10% on Black-owned businesses. Again, there's so many problems here. If Black households with a substantial disposable income, those with a total after-tax income of $75,000, the Black median household income right now is, I believe, no more than somewhere around $41,000 to $45,000. So the amount of Black households that have $75,000 in after-tax income can't be. I don't know what percentage it could be. They don't explain it, but it can't. They say 2.65 million families. I can't even imagine it could be that much. All right. Not even that many white households are making $75,000. I think across race, the average employee income period is in its maybe $40,000. So they're already talking about a tiny segment of people who are now being expected to spend more on Black businesses in a way that is supposed to suggest that those Black businesses could then expand and grow, hire more Black people, etc. So look at the example they get. So how many Subway restaurant franchises do you think that would buy? That is, if we ended up with this $14 billion in generated revenue from 2 to 10%. boost in spending on Black-owned businesses. That's the intriguing hypothetical scenario the Kellogg team considered. So again, I look at I didn't even think about this when I was looking at this before. Why is there example of what a Black-owned business could do?
That's what we need, brother.
To purchase.
That's what we need, man. We need Subway.
No, that's what I'm saying. But why is it? Where is the Black sovereignty in buying a Subway franchise?
Brother, let me break it down for you, brother. Okay. The reason why we need more Subways is because we need to go underground. And when we go underground, then we'll be out of the view of the white supremacist capitalist dynamic. And so once we're there, then we can organize like Harriet Tubman in the Underground Railroad, brother, because that's what this is all about. So, and then we can, and because she's from Chicago, we can even bring in Ida B. Wells, you know? So it's that whole Subway underground connection, just like the TV show Underground and all of that. So, I mean, it's just like a whole thing, brother, where the Subway, it's really coded language. It's deep. It's African deep thought, brother.
African deep thought. That's why we had to tag team with you, man, because I can't get there.
You ain't get it, brother. See, that's why I'm here.
Woo!
Yeah, that was deep.
Oh, man, that was deep. That was very well done. Again, I got to be careful when I get my sip, because now there's some on the floor. But anyway, that's...
But did they ever, you know, usually those, in all seriousness, when they talk about, anytime I've read a study and they talk about the team that was, you know, studying, they would say it's made up of, you know, X amount of people who have been financed, X amount of people. Did they actually explicate a little bit on what the Kellogg team, the composition of the team, what it was made of? Did they do
No,
that?
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I have not found it yet. They
Right.
talk about the class. They talk about the professor and the class.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about internet searches that the students conducted, but I have not found the actual report or study itself. So that's why I'm saying maybe I missed it. But if anybody has not missed it and are aware of it and can point me to it, I would like to see it. Because I just think that they're, you know, but if this is the level of analysis that they're bringing to even that report, I mean, it again, you know, your depth of analysis notwithstanding, what they're arguing here is that we'll buy up some anywhere between 69 and 172,000 Subways, hire 8 to 13 people each, and create almost 1 million jobs. Now it doesn't matter. Now again,
the Subways offer like a really high quality of life.
That's what I was going to ask.
Do they offer great benefits? Did I miss something?
That's what I was going to ask. Like, I don't see like people leaving Subway.
That's like when they want to build $1 billion stadium and they just, you know, they build them all over the place and they say, well, they create, you know, all these jobs. And I'm like, yeah, but you're selling hot dogs for like $7 an hour for like 3 months.
And breaking your back to do it. Yeah. I mean, that's what I mean. I you know, so then they go on. What if a black teenager got a job at a neighborhood Subway instead of hanging out on the corner after school? What if that teenager worked hard and became a manager and got tuition reimbursement to go to college and major in finance? Now multiply the possibilities by almost 1 million, and you see what the. So I mean, this is.
You remember that? You remember that McDonald's commercial with the brother Calvin? Calvin, you know, I don't know if you remember that. Somebody that's just inside baseball.
I do remember Calvin and McDonald's. Yes,
I could become Calvin. He become a manager at McDonald's so he can exploit a whole bunch of other people from his community and not give them breaks or benefits. That's what we need.
But see, this is what I'm saying about the quality of the work. These are the scenarios the Kellogg team considered. Like this is what they're basing their conclusions on, and then they can come up with these $32 billion. You know, I mean, anyway. So the last thing I just wanted to point to is that they actually have a chapter titled "The Trouble Is Us," where they explain in detail how I wonder whether something in our DNA prevents us from working together, whether the cultural liabilities we've experienced and yes, cultivated over the decades have become essence of who we are. I mean, this is what she's saying. This is what it's I mean, if it's the classic, if white people said this, we would be burning these books in the streets.
Black pathology sells, man. You know that and again, going back to when Obama made his tour and talking about black pathology, or whether it's Cosby or whomever. I mean, you know, if we, like you said, if a black person says it, then it's all good. You know, if a black Democrat says it, it's all good.
That's it.
Because if a black Republican says it, you know, then it's a problem too.
There might be some problem. That's true. There might be, and then people can get their liberal bona fides by screaming at the black conservative, and they can seem like they're radical and blah blah blah. Yeah, it's
speaking of that, man. Yesterday I went down a little rabbit hole. You always talk about going rabbit. I got caught up in looking at these Jesse Lee Peterson clips, man, and it was just like. I can't help but laugh at that dude, man. I haven't gone down.
This, to me, what we're doing here, this is my rabbit hole. This is the rabbit hole I was down. This is where I was 3-4 in the morning. Like this is it. But I haven't gone down that particular one. You know, but we all got them. I mean, they're out there waiting. They're traps, rabbit hole traps.
And apparently, well, I won't even say that. I'll just leave it alone, because then that's a whole other thing.
Yeah. That's tempting. Feel free to bring it back.
I'll bring it back if we have time.
Hey, I meant to ask you about your time. I'm in no hurry.
Me neither. I'm good.
You know,
I'm good.
And I know you got I still got a couple. We got to talk about. Yeah, I got some other stuff we got to get to. So like, I just wanted to. I just have gotten. Yeah, I've just dragged everybody down my own rabbit hole. That's all. But this, by the way, is the Brooke Stevens reference that Two Black and I really went and talked about, that he helped really break down in terms of the circulating dollar myth, where the original, as far as we could tell, the 6 hour dollar circulation myth comes from, that it itself has no support or substance. But here it's and by the way, Brooke Stevens, a Wall Street veteran. So, you know, this is, again, the perspective from which they're coming here. And again, just to juxtapose what I was saying earlier, they're not even coming from the sort of critical Wall Street perspective of the Martins and Wall Street on Parade. They're not even doing that. It's a much worse. Anyway. But from the days of slavery, she says, African Americans have bought into this bizarre fallacy that there was something noble about poverty and suffering, and that the only comfort we should expect will be in an afterlife. In other words, be proud to be poor. This is just historically inaccurate. There's the from every almost every historical record that I've seen, and in fact, even the book, even they put a twist on the Ida B. Wells work in this Anderson book. There has been an immediate desire for material advance at the slightest, you know, suggestion of freedom.
Speaking of reparations, like Callie House, like right up out the gate, was like, "Hey, what's up? I need my pension.
We need land.
Yeah.
We need resources.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we need to be able to build our own businesses. I want to be able to sell they were doing this from the beginning. I mean, this is so this idea that we're proud to be poor and this is why we don't, I mean, it's just, so anyway, I just wanted to show, you know, of course they do the crabs in the barrel thing, never pointing out that crabs are not meant to be in a barrel. So it just becomes that easy, you know, trope.
And not focusing who put the crabs in the barrel. How about that? And who created the barrel for them to be in the first place? Who created the environment that would even, you know, necessitate such a thing? So, yeah, think about that. But that's too much for them because they're not going to be able to sell books that way.
Exactly. By the way, they say here statistics detailing exactly how black consumers currently spend with black businesses are hard to find. Blackbusinessowners.com claims that African Americans currently spend 6 to 8% of their disposable income with Black businesses, but the origins of the data are unclear. In his book, Powernomics, Claude Anderson cites we spend approximately 5% of our income outside of our communities. Only 2% remains in Black hands inside the Black community. Based on these two sources, we will assume Black consumers recycle between 2 and 5% of their after-tax income within the Black community. So again, I've already said I disagree with Claude Anderson on his acceptance of the BuyingPower number and a few other things. I would only want to point out here that in Powernomics, and I'm happy to be checked on this, but I believe I'm right here. He doesn't have a source for that claim any more than the blackbusinessowners.com has a source for their claim of 6 to 8%. So my point is, just like a lot of this, these numbers are being thrown around, not only absent, I think, a proper understanding of how the economy works, but absent any real sound data on what is actually happening. And the real point to me is that the purpose is, of course, for folks like the Andersons and others to say, buy more from me. And we don't really need the details, because all I want is for more spending from you to me. And I think that's ultimately the only mission, which is why there's no data. So anyway, and that's why, you can find that there are sources here, but there's no Kellogg link to the Kellogg study. There are a lot of references to website databases and encyclopedia pages for their work.
So it's basically a long barbershop conversation. Basically.
I mean, to me, and yeah. And if somebody has the study, I want to see it. Or if anybody has something that I'm missing, and I will go back and look at this again, because I'm sure she'll come back into my email inbox at some point. By the way, there was one other piece I wanted to share about this. Her husband, John Anderson, holds an AB in economics. What's an AB? What is an AB actually? It
got me on that one.
From Harvard University, and an MBA from Northwestern and Kellogg's Graduate School of Management. And his background is he's currently president of the Insight Financial Management, a financial services firm that provides wealth management strategies. And wait a minute, I'm missing something. He's the co-founder of the Empowerment Experiment. Right. So he did the Empowerment Experiment with that professor at Kellogg. Ernst and Young. Wait, how did I get to because when you look up Insight Financial Management, that's how I got there, because I was curious of what his background was. You get, let's see, let me just show this one part real quick, and then we can move on. You get, let's see, his website is, I just had it right here. Apologies, everybody. No, Equitable, that's the next one. Crypto, Zionism, Leadership, Circulate. Wait, where is it? My quick thoughts, the segregation. Hold on a second. Hold on. My bad, everybody. My bad. I have it right here. I just saw it. So what's the title?
He's watching. He's watching, and they took it down, brother. They
it is Equitable. Okay, I see. My bad. It is. It is. No. If he's watching, if they're watching, if anybody who supports them is watching, I really would want to be told what I've gotten wrong here. Let's see. No, that wasn't it. That's his bosses. Hold on a second. I wanted to. This is wild. Why is it? Leadership bios, Equitable Advisors. Is this it then? Yeah, this is it. Okay. Insight Financial Management. And read more. I have been a registered representative of Equitable Advisors since December 2001. So Insight is his personal thing. None of these videos are of him, by the way. They're like stock videos on financial stuff. But when you look at Equitable Advisors, this was why now I remember exactly why I wanted to do it this way. When you look at Equitable Advisors, you then see, one, you see this is the leadership of Equitable. So you can start again, maybe get an idea of, to your point, why his work and the work of the Andersons would want to be promoted and supported. And then if you look into Equitable, you see that they are connected with and partnered with, which I thought, and this is what I thought was really interesting. One of their partners is Alliance Bernstein. Like, in fact, they are like, they're owned by the same company. The reason I bring this up is because Alliance Bernstein is specifically assets under management, is specifically a private wealth fund that makes its money by investing in the global market, in the global economy, with major clients and major world market. Alliance Bernstein is a leading global investment management firm. Offers high quality research and diversified investment services to institutional investors, individuals, and private wealth clients in major world markets. Institutional investors, by the way, if you look up every major company that you could think of, their number one institutional investor is almost always the Vanguard hedge fund or BlackRock. And when you try to look up who are the people who are in those investment groups, it doesn't tell you. So you look up, it says who's in the ownership of Vanguard. It says the people who invest in Vanguard. So you don't even know. So my point in bringing that up is because while you made a suggestion earlier about who would be and why would the Andersons' work be supported, I'm saying that part of it is because the very business model and businesses to which the Andersons are connected and working for have as their own model, not only obviously making money off of people's financial services, but investing in a global market. So they're literally telling us, start your business and circulate the dollar within your own community, and that's how you get wealth. While they are making their wealth by investing in the global economy, because that's the only way to increase your wealth. Is you cannot circulate the dollar within your own group and expect to maintain or expand. You have to invest broad. So that was the reason why I wanted to at least quickly bring up these connections. Anyway. All right, so that was it for me and the Andersons and that. Kaba, any other thoughts on that before we move on? And obviously, we'll definitely come back to this at some point, but I at least wanted to do that much.
Well, I again, you pointed out a story earlier when you talked about how all of the people, these groups at the top, were infused with capital, that they got capital, basically through policy. And that's how they were able to amass wealth. So, again, to your point, circulating the dollars and just simply investing in or supporting Black businesses is not going to, create a level playing field. And then also this is focused on consumption. It's still focused on, like, if buying power is just focused on consumption, nobody's ever consumed themselves to freedom, to my knowledge. It just doesn't happen. If you want to get free, then you don't empower the economic system that is responsible for you, for your current situation in the first place. So, those are just the things. So you got to focus on power. And again, the power ultimately comes back to the land. So, I mean, we control that. We control the resources. We control our destiny. So that's my takeaway.
So as a shout out to Shirley, and I really appreciate this being put onto this, because Shirley is going to help, has put me onto this, and it's perfect because not only have we exposed, again, with two Black and previously the myth of the circulating dollar, and that it has no basis in anything. But even when Black businesses are created to help Black people circulate the dollar, other Black capitalist wannabes come in, and as capitalism encourages, Black, white, or other, swoop in, take over, take credit for, crush the competition, and instead of circulating the dollar within the Black community, again, to my point, they really perform the task as is really their only task, to not circulate the dollar, but extract whatever dollars exist and have it circulate into their own pocketbooks. So I just want to, I think this video will speak for itself, although I got to share it again so the sound can be heard. But this was just a very interesting story that I was not up on, that Shirley put me on to.
Test. For the past year, I've been building, developing, and promoting my Black business discovery app called Circulate. This past Wednesday, P. Diddy announces he's creating a Black business discovery platform called Shop Circulate. This is what a Black entrepreneur faces all the time. We go underfunded, we can't get loans, we don't have a network to get resources from. Like, look, man, I'm a kid from the South Ward of Newark, New Jersey. I can't fight this machine all alone. I need help. Follow us on Instagram, donate to our GoFundMe, links are in the bio. And if somehow this reaches the ear of P. Diddy directly, you can email me at drixon@circulatetheapp.com.
So I thought that was deep. I looked into it a little bit. Brother creates an app that's supposed to help basically people find Black businesses to keep the dollar circulating in the community. And then here comes Diddy to swoop in and create a bigger, more popular, well-funded, supported version of the same thing, to not only, destroy this brother's dream and undercut his business, but to, even worse, promote this mythology that the dollar can circulate, and supporting Black businesses will help the collective. So thanks, Shirley, for putting me on to that. I don't know what else to say other than what has been said. But Kaba, did you want to,
No, I mean, it speaks for itself, man. I mean,
yeah,
it's amazing.
I thought that was amazing, actually. All right, so then
that was a Jesse Lee Peterson, because he always says that. That's probably a remnant from my watching all his stuff.
He always says what?
Amazing.
Oh,
amazing. That's how he says amazing.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get caught up on that rabbit hole.
Don't do it. Don't do it. I mean, unless you want some I laugh at it. I think it's funny, but it's not funny, but it's funny. Yeah.
Well, maybe I'll get caught up and we can not laugh at the not funny next week. I don't know, something. I don't know. So one rabbit hole that I don't consider this a rabbit hole. I'm a regular viewer of this channel. I don't mind saying that at all. I've already stolen Pierre's like I want to be to Black liberation what Pierre is to Black comedy. But I wanted us to check out this segment, at least some of this segment, because it touches on an issue I've been talking about lately. And I thought it was interesting. So let's check it out.
Can't hear anything.
Oh, you can't hear it? You can't hear it? My bad. I keep thinking I've taken care of that. And you know what? I'm gonna tell StreamYard needs to up its game. This is too unwieldy. Let's try that again.
It's been a while since we'd heard from Godfrey. The comedian took to social media to address an interracial advertisement he saw in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, that featured a white man with a Black woman. Godfrey said that he has a problem with this ad and would ask the question, what are they trying to say? Godfrey said he had a problem with the ad for having a white man with a Black woman and asked where was the ad with a Black man and a white woman. He would then go on to point out that some women of color who fight against white supremacy have white men, and wonder if having a white man as your partner would take away from their fight against white supremacy. Interracial relationships have been a long discussion in our community. So today on the show, we have our comedy hype analyst, Pierre, in the studio to talk all about it. But first, let's take a look at this clip.
Check it out, y'all. I'm in the middle of black-ass Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, okay? And I'm walking by, you know, because the thing about me, the thing about comedians, just artists, we pay attention to everything. Look, I just walked past this. Now, I know it's a nice little health, it's like, I guess, a health insurance thing. Fidelis Care. Yeah. But there's this white guy and this black woman, okay? There's been a lot of this. Even at my bank, they got a black woman with a white guy. Black, you know, it's a lot of black women with white guy shit. You know what I mean? It's what I noticed. But in black ass Brooklyn, all these black people are walking past this, and what are you trying to say? That it's better to get one of these, get a white guy? And listen, and I don't want any of you interracial motherfuckers that are in an interracial relationship making these stupid ass comments like, what's wrong? Love is love. Like I said, love is love. Yeah, but don't lose your fucking who you are. And a lot of you tend to do that kind of shit. I have a problem with this. Now, first of all, where's the black dude with the white girl? First of all, we started that. Where's the black dude with the white girl? Where's that? No, because you know why? The people who run it look like him and don't want to see that. You know, there should be black dudes with white girls. There's so many of them. But then you got the white dude with the black girl. So, you know, there's probably some black women going, I need to get me one. Yup. I need to get me one. It's like, this is security now.
All right. So I encourage you all to check out the rest of that and to watch the channel. I mean, it's just a fun channel to watch. They get some good history on black artists and comedians and entertainers, some controversial stuff. Sometimes they get into some debates. I mean, and I hope Netfa's still in the chat, but because he hosted me for a conversation on his show, Voices with Vision, Tuesdays 9 a.m. on WPFW, because I have been noticing the same thing or a similar thing, that there's been an increase in advertisements focused on interracial relationships and multiracial children. Please check out the conversation we had recently about mixed kids with Raylena Joseph and damn, his name is escaping me right now. Apologies, but check that conversation out at the book itself, because it answers, it helps with a lot of this. But my point, similar to what Godfrey was saying, at least in part, that there is something intentionally being done by those who manage these media spaces. And billboard spaces are often Clear Channel, at least in Maryland, Baltimore, if not most of the country, where white male executives in a white male dominated capitalist power structure want to use these symbols and relationships and children to promote a world that doesn't exist, and to encourage fantasies of I don't know, race relations, of society that doesn't exist. But anyway, I just thought that was interesting. And the only other thing I thought of is that I did have a friend once, a black woman friend, who, when we were out and would see a black woman with a white man, her joke all the time was, she got hers. Like, somewhat facetiously, but somewhat seriously, like, that's the prize. If you could get particularly a good looking white guy with money, like, jackpot. And so anyway, did you have any thoughts on this, man? I couldn't resist that joint, man.
I mean, you know, it's definitely prevalent. I mean, I've seen it a lot. I mean, just like you, and I think we're not alone. I think a lot of people have seen it. You know, so and as we know, you know, there's a lot of thought that goes into marketing and advertising. Like these things aren't just done arbitrarily. There's a point for every single scene, for every single thing that you see in it, from the music to the effects. You know, I mentioned my background. One of the things we had to do when I was in school was we had to write treatments, and basically the treatment is basically the script for a particular, usually it's movies and or music videos or things like that, but it's also done with news. And so we know that news readers, because that's all they are. They aren't really, you know, journalists. Most of the people that you see reading the news on TV, they're literally just good looking people that read the news, and sometimes they ain't really all that good looking. But nonetheless, they're
They
news
can't always
readers.
read.
and in Jesse Lee Peterson's case, can't always talk, but that's a whole nother thing. Um, but you know, they're readers. But there's also another accompanying piece, especially when even in radio sometimes, but more specifically in television. You know, everything that you see, all the clips that they show, that's all scripted. It's all intentional. So I say all that to say that these commercials are very, very intentional. There's a reason why they're doing it. And so the question then is why? Because to me, why is the most important question. And the only thing I could really think of is the fact that, you know, Joe said it in that speech when he was lambasting all those black leaders and stuff, is that, you know, white folks their numbers are dwindling. And I think maybe that's, you know, possibly a way for I don't know this for sure. this is my speculation. You know, that maybe white men are like, look, you know, we gotta continue the race. So let's go and get us a black woman, you know, to kind of keep it moving. And again, they're just returning to their roots because, you know, Godfrey said that black men started it, but actually, no, the white man started it.
Yeah.
You know, ask Thomas Jefferson, you know, ask George Washington. You know,
you're right about that.
You know, so I think they're just kind of going back to that. Maybe in maybe some kind of unconscious, you know, Dr. Welsing way, they're trying to create, you know, future generations that can sustain themselves, you know. So I don't know.
I also saw a couple people raise this in the chat. Is Bed-Stuy in Brooklyn still black? I was a little shocked when I saw him say that too. I was like, really? Is it?
Yeah.
Black
the
Bed-Stuy?
The last time I went to Brooklyn, it wasn't as black as it was, you know, back in the day. But you know, that was 10, 12 years ago. It was like that. Yeah. I mean, they have vegans, they have vegan spots and all kinds of vegan pizza place and vegan this and that, and you know, all kind. And this was like in 2008, 2009 when I went. So
wow,
I was surprised then, you know, because in the 90s and stuff when I used to go quite a bit, you know, it was none of that.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen Brooklyn since the 90s, so wow. I'm almost afraid to go at this point.
It's like 14th Street. It's like U Street in DC at 8th Street.
Oh man.
Yeah,
that's sad. That's almost too depressing. One last thing here, man. My man Todd just put this out on his website, drumstheglobalvillage.com. That's Dr. Todd Stephen Burroughs. I have not seen this, but he wrote a couple one paragraph or so on this on In the Heights. I don't know if you've seen this from Manuel Miranda, who I, you know, have been decidedly opposed to since Hamilton. But I thought this was interesting. Yeah, the Hamilton guy came out. He's got a new In the Heights about was it Washington Heights in New York, I'm assuming. But Lin-Manuel Miranda reminds me how Ta-Nehisi Coates described Obama, an activist, not a protester. Nice move he made with NPR's Maria Hinojosa to get some intellectual activist cred. This is the most thoroughly gentle, even if present, film portrayal of systemic white supremacy I've seen on film. Miranda, who loves 20th century white popular culture at least as much as I do, does not want to upset whitey ever. Having said that, I enjoyed seeing the undocumented struggle included in this. It shows how, like Coates, he is very careful. The story is highly cultural, very brown, the way Hamilton is ironically very white. I can see Miranda on the Heights vacation, reading Ron Chernow's bio and going, yes, I can now go completely in a new and opposite direction like an artist should. Past instead of present, white instead of black brown, birth of a nation instead of death of a neighborhood. As a concept, Hamilton makes a lot of sense to me now. You can clearly see the themes in both musicals that attract Miranda, the power of personal drive and dreams with versus sacrificial commitment to family and community. Whether it is culturally stereotypical, I will leave for brown people to discuss. To the outsider, it looks like he's trying to hit every cultural mark. Because Hamilton was first for me. This seemed like a workshop to test out the style he would perfect with the slaveholders. Okay. Sounds like what I would have predicted. But I just thought that was interesting. from my man Todd. So folks can go to the drumsglobalvillage.com for more from him, and maybe we'll get him on the program to talk about that and other stuff. So Brother Kaba, unless you got something else, man, I'm good, man. I appreciate you once again for joining me these couple hours and working through some of this stuff. And I definitely look forward to you coming back next week and to checking out your show on WPFW Monday afternoon. But any concluding thoughts or any thoughts at all or whatever, concluding or not?
Well, you just made me think. I've never seen Hamilton. And
I haven't either. Right.
I've never even been, but I'm not really I'm not really I know it was a play, but I'm not really a movie person per se. Haven't really seen I'm not like people make a lot of movie references. There's only a few I've really seen. But I did see The Godfather, and I saw the conversation about that. And I only just saw The Godfather, like all three of them, for the first time like 2 years ago. I finally watched them all. Yeah. Man. And actually, I actually thought 2 was actually the better one because it gave you the backstory.
That's the argument, and they're the only films where the first and its sequel won Best Picture. It's the only time that's happened, and some do say, and it's the only time people usually say that the sequel was better than the original. Mm-hmm. So I enjoyed that, but I'm not really a movie person, so I'm not really one to ask about that. But yeah, I've never seen Hamilton. I have heard about this guy before. And it was always kind of interesting to me, all the praise that he got for it. Cause I just, Alexander Hamilton is just like not somebody that I'm trying to, be bigging up, anyway. So I and I'm just presuming, cause I don't know, I'm presuming that's the main character in that, Alexander Hamilton, one of the founding fathers of America. Yeah, from what I've read,
and he's trying to make him kind of hip and with the hip hop, and white folks always kind of like that whole, kind of being as I think it was Ebony magazine said they love black culture, but they don't like black people, kind of thing. Like, so, you can be Elvis and move and stuff like that, because you got to get Elvis to do it, because they don't want, Otis Blackwell or what's the guy's name? I forget his name, but I forget his name. The one that really looked, that Elvis tried to look like and dance like and sound like. Lonely Teardrops.
Jackie Wilson.
Jackie Wilson. They rather have them. They didn't want to have them as I forget. Gil Scott Heron said they rather have they had to create Elvis Presley because they didn't want white girls creaming over some black dude jiggling on the screen. Right.
I mean, Godfrey was making the same point there. They were like, they don't have the black dude with the white woman anymore.
Right.
They don't want that.
Yeah.
So no, absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah.
Anyway.
No, by the way, shout out to Erica Caines and Sister Belfina. They were on the show last week.
That's
as
right.
Well, talking about the situation there in Baltimore. And then coming up this Monday, we got Brother Runoko, Dr. Runoko Rashidi is going to be coming on to talk about his travels, and I got to definitely ask him about Panama. And then he's also going to be talking about just fatherhood, just because Father's Day is coming up. He's got this program coming up on Father's Day with Tony Browder, so he's going to be talking about fatherhood as well. So
hey, he'll be on Monday. This, but tell him I apologize for, I think it was in like 2008. I saw him at Happily Natural Day. He was giving a presentation, and I, without even thinking about it, I took a picture of one of his slides, and he was like, "Brother, can't have you doing that, brother." People, because I was sitting, and it didn't even occur to me. He was like, people put that on the internet and take credit for it, and I was like, dang, I didn't even think about that. I was like, wow, I just thought I was gonna have one. But I was like, okay, no problem. I got you. So anyway, tell him I apologize all these years later. My bad. I wasn't trying to, hustle his work. I just thought he had something up there that I was like, damn, that's particularly fascinating. So, but I'll be definitely checking it out Monday, man.
And I have Dr. Ichile coming on there too in a couple of weeks as well. So, she came to Black Power Media, got too big time for me on my little show, but now finally she's got a little time for the brother now. So now the class is out. you know,
it's a hazard of the problems we create on the channel, man.
I mean, you know.
Hey, you keep messing around, you're gonna be too big for your own show in a minute. They're gonna be like, man, you know, all these weekly hits over here. That's what we do. We just make people so anyway, yeah, whatever. Anyway, man, I'm sure that'll be great. We look forward to that, man. Again, I really appreciate you coming through. Enjoy your contribution. Appreciate it, and look forward to next time, man. So to you, to everybody else out there, say peace, because I know you're willing to fight for it. Thanks to everybody out there. We'll catch you next time here at I Mix What I Like Live. Please stay tuned on the channel throughout the rest of the day. A lot of great programming coming up, and please be on tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern for the Accountability Summit that we're hosting here at Black Power Media. So again, for Kaba, from me to everybody else, thanks again. Peace if you're willing to fight for it. Catch you next time here at I Mix What I Like Live. I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like.